Ed's getting this big fish closer and closer. We have deep color on it now. Great fishing on the Amigo. Big fish, tough fish. This on the fly line. Ed is so relaxed and doing things just textbook. Ed, how long you been on this?
At least 20 minutes.
I know, man. Getting awful close by looking at your reel there.
What a great catch for Ed. As you see this magnificent fish come to gaff on board the Amigo, Ed did everything right. He stayed relaxed, he put pressure on the fish, and he listened to the crew. Beautiful fish coming on board the Amigo. It doesn't get any better than this.
I'll take it.
Yeah, Ed.
Hold him, my baby.
Yeah, tied up with this thing.
7 days.
Feels like it, huh?
Oh, he's on a single speed. He's putting a hurt to it.
Bill, old school, single speed. Bill don't need no stinking 2-speed. Maybe he does.
One more time around, Bill.
Old school Bill's getting close. Nice fish. Beautiful. Love it. So how did Bill do on this trip? Well, he was one of the most successful anglers on board. He went 3 for 3 on the tuna on this trip on board the Amigo. No Spectra, no 2-speed, old school Bill. Izzy from Blacktail Hooks caught her very first tuna on board the Amigo on an incredible day-and-a-half trip.
Take it out, put it under your arm, okay?
Yay! My first tuna!
I want to see that. First tuna!
Where's the Eat the hurt! Eat the hurt!
Oh my god!
Great day today for the El Patron fishing out of 22nd Street Landing in San Pedro, California. They has easy limits on the bluefin tuna and 5 nice grade yellowfin tuna to go along with it. The SoCal bite continues red hot. Excellent fishing on the El Patron.
Ah, yes. The breakfast of champions on the carnivore diet. A beautiful ribeye steak. Can't wait.
Hey everybody, it's Phil. I wanted to give you a little update on how things are going. Still tons of energy, losing weight, feeling so good, and getting outside and walking every single day. That is something I have to drive home to each and every one of you. Get out, get some vitamin D, get outdoors, and enjoy this beautiful world of ours. It makes this all work. Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody, and welcome to beautiful Surfside, California, here in Southern California. So many of you joining us from around this big, beautiful world of ours, certainly throughout the United States, and a lot of you here in SoCal. We're sandwiched between Seal Beach, California, and Huntington Beach, California. It's an overcast, kind of fall-feeling morning. It's a little bit cool, but man, the fishing is red hot, and we aim to get you caught up on all of that and more. Don't forget, hit that like button. We really appreciate it when you do that. Share these videos if you are enjoying them. Tick the bell. You'll be notified when there is new content, and leave a comment down below. You know what time it is. It's Tuesday morning, and it's time for the morning briefing. Good morning, my friends. Thank you for allowing me to indulge in this nectar from the gods. I need this early in the morning. It's a beautiful morning, and fishing is absolutely red hot. We're going to get into some giant bluefin tuna being caught here in Southern California. We also have some weather issues as it's a little bit windy. There's some good surf fishing going on, as you will shortly see. The Pelican Patrol come into the scene. They're looking for bait fish, and they've been finding a lot of it. And of course, there's predators on that. We've got yellowfin, bluefin, we've got a little bit of dorado, and we have got some really big bluefin tuna. Before we get into that, this Sunday, 22nd Street Landing in San Pedro, California at 11 a.m., the Walk with Phil crew. That's another YouTube channel that I have, my friends. Please go to Walk with Phil and subscribe today. But more importantly, if you'd like to go for a walk this Sunday, we'll be departing from 22nd Street Landing at 11 o'clock sharp, and then we'll return for a cup of coffee and some good conversation. That's this Sunday, 11 a.m., 22nd Street Landing. You are all invited. And this is for, if you want to walk fast, you can do that. If you want to jog, you can do that. If you're just getting into walking and you want to go slow, man, we got people out there with a lot of patience that will help you along. So I'll see you this Sunday, 11 a.m., 22nd Street Landing in San Pedro. Last night, of course, we did Tackle Shop Confessions Live with Sam De La Torre from Island Fishing Tackle in beautiful Carson, California. You can go back and watch that great show right now. You can find that on Friedman Adventures on Facebook. There'll be a link there for you, and you'll be able to watch that show. It was a lot of fun once I got the camera straightened out. The first part, well, you'll see. I screwed things up as usual, so what can I tell you? This Friday, lobster season starts at 6 p.m. Man, it should be a crazy, absolutely local weekend for lobster. And if you want to save some money on your lobster hoop netting needs, you can go to Big Fish Bait and Tackle in the beautiful city of Seal Beach, California. You'll save 10% when you walk in there and mention Friedman Adventures. I don't even think you have to mention Friedman Adventures, but make sure you mention 10% off. And you heard it here, and you'll get that. Or you can order online. You can go to promarahi.com, promarahi.com, and put in Friedman 10 at checkout. They'll knock 10% off your bill. I don't know how you can beat that. Hats off to the folks from Wounded Heroes of America. Over 45 boats, I think, took place in taking our veterans who have been wounded in war out for a day's fishing. It was a hugely successful event, and I can't think of people who deserve more of our love, respect, and a day on the water than our wounded heroes. And for everybody that made that possible yesterday, a magnificent event. Thank you for giving back to the men and women who protect this great country of ours and make all of this possible. Without their sacrifice, we're not going fishing. We're not doing anything. We need them every single day to protect us. And this is a small way to show gratitude to them and all of you out there who made that day so successful. My hat's off to you. All right. We do have some weather issues that I want to talk about, and they extend from the Channel Islands, where it's very breezy, to out to the western area where the tuna are biting. But man, the tuna are biting. Guys are paying out there for it, but they are still catching, and there's been some great catches. That weather will start to moderate today and come down, and then we'll see a little bit of breeziness, but it's all fishable weather for what I can see in the extended forecast for the next week or so. So hang on. We're going to have a little bump again today, but guys are toughing it out and doing really well in some really great fishing out there. All right, let me take you south of the border before I get to some of this big fish catching going on out of many of the landings here in the LA Orange County area. It's going to get absolutely crazy. By the way, 5-day trip on board the Independence with Friedman Adventures sailing October 20th. Wow. You want to catch your personal best, that's going to be the trip to do it. 5-day trip. You can get more information, independencesportfishing.com. South of the border, we still have some hit and miss fishing offshore. You can come up with a good catch of bluefin. You can come up with a good catch of yellowfin. You can catch a few dorado. You can strike out. And then you have to draw back and catch rockfish or calico bass or sand bass, a couple of halibut here recently down there in the Ensenada area. But still really good fishing overall. I mean, you've got that offshore situation where you might slam dunk the thing, and there's been several boats who've been able to do that, or you got the inshore bite, and that's really steady, good fishing in there. As I mentioned, big bonita, a few yellowtail, good calico bass fishing along that pristine Putabanda area. I love it down there. And of course, you're in Mexico, so you get to enjoy the ambience of that great country, her great people, and that great culture, and of course, the food to die for. And I can even survive down there on the carnivore diet. Man, I go into my favorite carne asada taco burrito place in Tecate, Los Amigos, and I say to the boys, hey guys, same thing as always, just leave the tortilla off of there. And I cheat a little bit by throwing the guacamole, which is more keto, but it's great stuff. So I hope you get south of the border and are able to catch. All right, let me start out by saying the Pacific Queen the other day, with all of those fish, they actually caught so many fish over 100 pounds. They were on a 3-day trip. They had to come in and offload some tuna, and they'll go back out again. They had 40-something fish in the 110 to 220 pound class. And that same thing is playing out on many of the long range boats right now, And the new low-end, Eric Lee was on board the new low-end. They had 59 fish on this trip, bluefin tuna, and he said 7 or 8 were less than 100 pounds. Everything else was 100 to 200 pound class. It is absolutely phenomenal. Look at that. That pinch me. I'm dreaming that you can go on a 2 or 3 day trip right now and catch that kind of fish. Absolutely phenomenal. And man, you've got to have the right tackle. 2-speed reels are essential. I know when we led in with Bill, old school Bill, catching bluefin and yellowfin on our Amigo trip with old style gear. I feel old now. You know, the old timers using that monofilament and that one single speed reel. Anyway, Bill did great. In fact, he was one of the most successful anglers on our trip, but he ain't going to do any good on that grade of fish, man. So you better 2-speed it up. You better be fishing a minimum of 100 pound spectra. I like 130 on this grade, and you better have 200 pound leaders. Some of that fish coming at night and biting really well on the knife jigs, anywhere from 250 to 400 grams. The Daiwa SK jigs have been red hot. There's been several colors, but that orange and white seems to be really good. Sam's got a bunch of those at Island Fishing Tackle in beautiful Carson, California. If you need some of those, something with red in it's been hot. And then other people say, and I kind of concur with them, all you got to do is get in front of them and they'll bite it, whatever it is. It can be, you know, an eddy bomb, a torpedo sinker. It doesn't really matter. Well, the key to that is then knowing the depth of your lure. And that's where colored line comes in that changes color every 100 feet. That tells you the depth. I think that is probably the most important factor to get you a big fish, knowing where your lure is. The captain's going to say drop. You need to do that immediately, number one. But secondly, and perhaps more importantly, you've got to know the depth that your jig is at. And that comes in with that colored line, that metered line. So keep that in mind. What a trip on the new low end. And there were several other long-range boats that got in on it. I can't wait for that Independence trip. That is going to be something special. 5 days. And I'm still not sure where we're going to be fishing on that trip. But if it were today, we'd be all over some trophy, big, giant bluefin tuna. It should be remarkable. And who knows, because we still have the influence of this El Nino, which I think is going to manifest itself later on in the year. We're going to have warm water right through the first of the year if we don't get those Arctic-based storms rolling through here. But it could absolutely get crazy. Now, having said all of this, I want to make it clear, there were some stinker trips in there, whether they were trips that left in the morning, came back in the afternoon, or came back that evening, or even some 2-day trips that weren't all that good. So a little bit hit and miss, but it seems to me to be surging ahead right now. We saw much better fishing yesterday than the previous day. More yellowfin, more bluefin. It's really looking good. It acts like it wants to really turn on again. And the next couple of days, including today, should be very, very interesting. Aztec limits of bluefin tuna. San Diego on a 1-day trip. They leave in the morning. They come back in that same evening. Limits of bluefin tuna. These guys also have a little bit of Dorado, a little bit of yellowfin, sometimes a lot of yellowfin. San Diego, for example, had 8 Dorado and 7 yellowfin tuna. Pegasus, 3-day trip, 18 guys. Jacob Barclay and the boys on the Pegasus, Alec, and all those guys. 101 on the bluefin tuna. Islander 2-day, 73 bluefin. The Freedom was out yesterday. The previous day, remember that limits of bluefin yesterday? 40 mixed tuna. Nothing wrong with that. El Dorado, Long Beach sport fishing, right up there around 100 mixed tuna. El Patron yesterday, limits on the bluefin tuna. Oceanside 95, limits on the bluefin tuna. Really great fishing for many of the boats. Some misses. Hopefully we won't see too many more of those misses, but it's fishing. It's not catching. It's the experience. It's being out there on the water with good people like we do all the time on our Free Minute Adventure trips. And by the way, I'll be putting out a 2024 schedule sometime next month. So I know a lot of you have been on our trips before. We'll get first shot at it, and then we'll move on to others. But the camaraderie on our trips has been spectacular. Remember now, many of these bites, most of these bites, are these long drifts, sometimes as long as 8 hours. The Amigo got into one of those 8-hour drifts with the folks from Blacktail Hooks the other day. Sky and Izzy and all the great people on board there. In fact, that's Izzy on the cover of the morning briefing as she scored her first tuna and ate the heart. Izzy, you have my deep and abiding respect. And sometimes there are these long drifts. Many times right now, you're in a long drift. You've got to change your bait regularly. Sometimes it's a long soak where you soak your bait a long time. Sometimes you're changing it ASAP. And you have to drop that fluorocarbon down in many cases to 25, sometimes even 20 pound. If you're in that small grade fish and you're not getting a bite, drop down the fluoro to 20 pound. Other times you're going to be fly lining at 40 and a 60 pound. And for sure, if you get into that big grade fish, you're done on 20, 25, 40. You know, you got to hook them on at least 60, that 100-pound fish to have a chance. Guys that know what they're doing can catch those fish on 40 pound, but for most of us, you're going to want to fish as heavy as you can to get a bite. That's where you have your observational skills. You're watching what's going on, who's catching what, on what, and you're talking to your crew members. That all makes such an important difference. So be ready to drop down, be ready to go up, be ready to observe. It's so important. www.opsonusa.com. You want a free gift? Put in FA at checkout, and you might get a hug and a kiss from Greg Brown, the owner, if he sees you wandering around the streets late at night. All right, so some awfully good fishing, no question about it. I love what's going on. This big fish right now, what has been going on the Pacific Quint and the Nulaland and several other boats is mind-boggling. It truly is the best fishing I've ever seen in all my years here in SoCal. That is pretty remarkable. All right, and just to make the point, that's going on from San Diego up to not the Channel Lines, but I'd say up to Redondo. Let's say that. The boats that are on multi-day trips out of those landings or day-and-a-half trips, even one-day trips, are getting a piece of this and getting a good piece of it. So it takes in this whole area, which is pretty phenomenal also. I love it. Great stuff. Channel Islands have a bunch of weather. They see a lot of bluefin up there in that neck of the woods. It just hasn't kind of light switched on quite yet. It hasn't gone on a ripper kind of bite. Maybe when we get out of this wind, things will come back and really start to bite. We'll see how that all plays out. Islands, you know, there's not much going on at the islands. Well, I mean, not that there's not much going on at the islands. Nobody's all that interested in it. They're all offshore for the most part. Down there off of Mexico, just across the border, 10, 11 miles from Point Loma, the Coronado Islands, a few yellows, calico bass. Clemente has got a lot of sea lions, a few yellows, calico bass. Catalina, whitefish, rockfish, sheep's head, occasional yellowtail. You see them around. Decent bass fishing at times, especially if you drop the mono down. Sometimes when you're throwing your bait, sardines back in the kelp, you're going to have to fish the heavier line, and they'll bite that. 30-pound fluoro will work there. Channel Islands, kind of messy right now with some weather up there in that neck of the woods. The coastal region, we continue to see good rockfish, sheep's head, whitefish down there in San Diego, Oceanside, Dana Wharf. There's a little bit of bass thrown in. Also, sometimes more shorts, which you are releasing. Same thing up Marina Del Rey, up there in the Channel Islands when that wind gets out of the picture for Cody Rogers on the Island Spirit. Good rockfish, sheep's head, and whitefish. Occasional bass bite up there in that neck of the woods. On the surf, we continue to see good Corvina fishing. Beautiful weather to do that. Our water has been chocolate, kind of red tide-ish. You know, hopefully this algae bloom that has kind of mucked up the water a little bit will get out of the picture here pretty soon. But there's been some yellowfin croaker on the chrome crocodiles. You can catch Corvina, the California Corvina. Fun fish. You can actually stalk those things. You'll see them right in that short water there. And nice light line, like 6 pound on a trout rod, 4 pound on a trout rod. A nice sand crab that you dig up here, or a sandworm, or you can go to Big Fish Bait and Tackle in the beautiful city of Seal Beach. They're right down the street. I can walk there in 10 minutes. Corner of Seal Beach Boulevard and Pacific Coast Highway. They've got a vast array of bait for you. They've got all the tackle you'll need. And they're situated really close to some great surf fishing places. In fact, just south of them, you go to Anderson and Pacific Coast Highway. There's a big tower there. And if you fish that area, it has been really good in many, many cases. Yellowfin croaker, some good spotfin croaker on bait there. It's been good. Don't forget, 10% off all your lobster gear at Big Fish Bait and Tackle. There's good surf fishing from San Diego all the way up if you work hard at it. I like that 4-hour window, 2 hours before the high tide till 2 hours after for many species, but corvina, halibut, and other species you can fish on the low tide. Tide's coming up right now. It's getting kind of high. I didn't look at the tidal charts, but it's looking pretty high right now. So I'm thinking like probably an 8 a.m. high tide today, something like that. So let's assume that that was the case. I'd be fishing at 6 a.m. until 10, like that window, if you're looking for yellowfin croaker, halibut, all those other species. But at the low tide, as I said, halibut, corvina will still bite. All right, what else can I tell you? Walk with Phil this Sunday, 11 a.m., 22nd Street Landing, December the 2nd at the Redondo Rod and Gun Club, the Freedman Adventures Christmas party. Each and every one of you are invited. There'll be sport fishing dignitaries there that you can talk to and reminisce about the great season, get in the Christmas spirit, help us out with raffles and so much more. It's going to be fun, great food, great entertainment. It's going to be a fun time, and we'll probably live stream that. So if you can't show up to the event, we'll be live streaming that entire event. That's going to be great. The Wounded Heroes of America doing great work in our community, helping our veterans out. What a great day they provided for the men and women of our armed forces who so richly deserve that and so much more. That was a great event from what I was told, and I'm so proud of the people who made that happen. This weather will come down. The big fish, are they going to keep biting? I think they are. It's really spectacular. Don't forget to go with Walk with Phil on YouTube and subscribe today. We're talking carnivore diet. We're talking about getting healthier. We're talking about heading your life in the right direction. We're talking about putting more years in your life. No, we're not. We're talking about putting more life in your years. That's what we're talking about, and you'll see that. Walk with Phil on YouTube. Subscribe today. Have a great day. As always, it's such a pleasure to be with you, and I hope to see you really, really soon. Take care, my friends.